welcome to Gems of Margazhi. Today's conversation is very close to my heart. But the reason that I wanted you on this series is because I've grown up watching you preserve culture and heritage along with evolving into such a successful entrepreneur in today's changing times. So today we are in conversation with my mother, but as Vaira Meenu. So, you know, with all of this preserving tradition and culture, and this is the season of devotion, art, festive vibes. So, what does Margazhi mean to you personally?
To me personally, Margazhi, in our growing up years, I think we had the discipline of getting up pretty early in the morning. That was a regular routine, unlike these days. But in Margazhi, especially, we used to get up a little early, and we were made to come out and do a little bit of kolam, and then invariably, at least weekly, twice or thrice, we go to the temples. And coming from a family of all businesses and businessmen and entrepreneurs, I think art or a dance or any musical event, we got exposed a little earlier. You guys are very lucky, but we got exposure a little earlier. But to me, very personally, Margazhi is all about dressing up. It's like Navratri. It's like a second Navratri where we dress up beautifully in all the best clothes and jewelry and go to the sabhas, enjoy the music. Everybody has a connection to a certain art. And I'm sure, Margazhi is one season where we really explore our art interest also. So we get to see a lot of new artists. So, especially living in Chennai, born and raised in Chennai, Margazhi is something that we are blessed with. The Margazhi festival season.
I think you've explored a fair share of your art forms. You've done music, Carnatic, you've done different forms of, Indian dance. I think you've done a fair share of.
I have to give it to my dad because he was a person who he was very keen that we get exposed to art at a very early age, and I have to really give it to him. And he, Amma and Appa, of course, it is our parents who always instill the values in us, and I've seen them, giving so much of importance to the traditions. At the same time, they've really adapted to the modern times. So obviously, I would think I was blessed because I was able to learn Bharatanatyam. I was able to learn dance. At the same time, I was also able to learn horse riding. I had all the exposure. That was a blessing, and I was also very blessed to go to the US at a very young age. And so there it is. He really taught, parents really taught us how to embrace, modernization with tradition and culture as our roots.
You and Amma, she also did a good job with that with me. Okay. So, when we talk about preserving culture and tradition, you are someone who's been emphasizing on preserving culture and tradition through jewelry. What makes you feel that you're responsible for that? How do you approach that responsibility?
See, again, in growing up years, whenever we go for the weddings, or whenever we go out for a function, so those days it was going mostly family outings to cousins' houses or a family functions. So always, what was very exciting was to get dressed up, wear a nice sari or wear a nice dress. Have sari and then wear all the jewelry. The minute you wear your jewelry, you kind of get that very Indianness in you. I've always felt that the minute I wear a half sari or a sari, I would want to dress a certain way. And most of those jewelries that I wear when I'm wearing a sari is probably what my grandmoms or it is passed down over years. So there's a lot more to that jewelry than just a piece of jewelry. So I felt that as a very young kid, and I felt that's how it should also be passed on to the next generation. So that's why I always say, this is what your Amma gave you. This is what your, Tata gave you. So every piece of jewelry is not just a jewelry. It is a lot
Sentimental.
more sentiments, a lot more emotion. And reimagining and adding more newer motives. I think I've always enjoyed that, but the basic root has always been, very traditional, which has been very, very favorite of mine.
I can see the passion that's coming out. I know you can go on and on about this, but so when we talk about Margazhi, what is it about the season that you feel that the wider audience, today's generation, different generations, culturally relate with in this season?
These days, I should say, with so much of alternate entertainments, with so much of different forms, because of the world becoming smaller and smaller due to the digitalization. For this generation to go out for a Margazhi Kacheri, I think it is a real challenge for all the artists to make it interesting for this generation. And it is really happening. So we are seeing, which means all the artists have evolved a great length, and they have, it's art tradition, but which is appealing to the younger generation. So I would still like to wear the Adiga. Every time I wear my piece, you say, no, 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 this is the piece I'm going to wear. So we both fight for the same piece.
So we don't talk. What happens at home stays at home. We don't talk about that here.
But I'm so happy that you're able to relate to a piece which is, about 200 years old. So that's what culture and tradition does to us. So once you get a little bit of liking or you get connected, so there is a lot more meaning in it.
Jewelry is often considered ornamental, but you have shown that it is so much more than that. So, how do you convey its cultural value to someone who does not understand its significance?
See, well, I think your question is a jewelry as in general is not just a piece that you just buy and, in our growing years, how a jewelry was made was usually it is the grandparents or, somebody who's more senior in the family would come and given their little inputs on, this is a more everlasting piece. But there would be some kind of an input. It's an experience. It was never a just go to the shop, off the shelf, pick up something and come. No, it was always an experience. So that was how it was. And I've always enjoyed that experience. And I think that kind of gives you a lot more memories than. So every time you kind of wear that piece, you remember that you went with your grandparents or with so and so and picked it up and you got it for a special occasion. There is a lot more. So that in itself is a real story. So you wouldn't just take that piece, go to the store and say, oh, I'm really tired of this design. I want to change it. You wouldn't do that easily, which is, because there is more value to it. That is why I feel every piece of jewelry is like a heritage. It's an heirloom that should be passed on because there is so much more a story. There is so much more of an involvement, a personal involvement in every piece of jewelry that's made for any occasion. And today, the younger generation or your generation of kids, they would probably get more connected if this kind of involving them in the whole process of creating a jewelry is made. I'm sure you're going to probably when we made the first your sweet 16 jewelry, so you always talk about it. So I think these are things that will keep you more and more connected to the culture, to your roots, to the values, and to the way you were given importance in a piece that you created. Was created for you. So these are the little values that are silently added when a piece of jewelry is made.
True. I totally agree with you. This piece is very close to my heart because Amma gave this to me for a very, very special occasion. And I know for sure I'm not going to touch it ever. I'm going to keep it and pass it on the same way. So when we're talking about jewelry and tradition now, what is that one Margazhi tradition or jewelry design that you hope never fades away? And why is it so important to preserve that and keep it in?
I'm very, very sure it's the yummy food culture that all of us go to the sabas. So, and of course, the art scenario is really, uh, the art scenario is really growing in a very different way. The really, really old tradition, the old style of dance or music is all back. And on the other side, we see a lot of youngsters who are into a very unique style of fusing the traditional modernization, and a lot of things are happening. So this is something that I'm really excited about, and I only wish this just continues and grows much bigger and bigger. That one piece of jewelry, a rather style of jewelry, I think is a very traditional addige, a very traditional close setting jumki, a vattakal, Vaira Meenu. These are things I wish always stay in trend. And I am seeing the younger generation, really having a liking for it. But when it's Margazhi, I think with the Pattasari and the Vaira Addiga, it really complements so well. In the month of Margazhi, especially for me, I think it's a piece of Addiga that I wish it always stays in trend, and because it talks a lot about our culture.
As Vaira Meenu, how do you see traditional jewelry evolving in the future? And do you think the younger audiences will embrace it?
The traditional jewelry for sure is evolved quite a bit already, but it is always a cycle. Like how, when we were young, we used to wear the puff sleeve and the long sleeve, and now it's all back again. It's a cycle. So I think when about 50 years back, the traditional jewelry was a lot of kasamala and mangamala, and you already are into it, right? So as we evolve, the little bit of variation, I'm sure traditional jewelry is going to have its place in every generation. And how it is going to be embraced by younger generation, I think I should ask you that question. And I would like to hear from you how you think you will embrace this traditional jewelry.
I think because I've grown up in that environment, I've always embraced traditional jewelry as much as I've embraced modernity as well. But like you said, it's a cycle. And I am seeing a lot of my contemporaries, a lot of my peers kind of, adapting back to our culture, our tradition, and kind of embracing it in the most warm way, I think.
So I'm happy that, it's that way.
Yeah, no, I'm pretty sure. But how do you see this evolving in the future, like traditional jewelry evolving in the near future?
See, how it would evolve is it all depends upon how you, transition or how you communicate this to the coming generations. If it is communicated as, you have to do it a certain way, then I'm not very sure about it. But if you have a free hand, or this is the foundation, but you could kind of work around in a different way, or you can. But ideally, it should kind of complement each other, and the free hand is given. I'm sure it is going. It is evolved and it is evolving. So
it's going to be
evolving. So I'm pretty confident about that.
Right. So, lastly, what do you think is the true gem of Margazhi? You better say it soon.
Well, a true gem of Margazhi, of course, is you. You've already asked for it. But a true gem of Margazhi, I would think there are multiple, but it's one way of again connecting to art, culture. I think Margazhi is even more important because there is a certain time we are giving for everything. So Margazhi is already a month of culture, heritage, and I only wish it just stays the same forever. And it is really special.
Well, thank you for being on Gems of Margazhi. And
it's my pleasure.
I'll see you at home for dinner.